The Hard Count is presented by BetMGM. As y'all know by now, we've teamed up with BetMGM this college football season. We'll be using their lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for all of you each week. Now, when you join BetMGM, you get access to a variety of parlay selection features like same-game parlays, live betting options, and more. If you haven't signed up yet for BetMGM, use bonus code HARDCOUNT, and you'll get up to $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how that works. 1, download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code HARDCOUNT. 2, deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. Step 3, you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code HARDCOUNT when you sign up. Let's make this college football season 1 for the books. Let's make it legendary. Let's get to the show. And welcome into the Hard Count. It is September 24th. 2025, last one on the face of the planet. Excited to have y'all in here, man. It is a separation Saturday around the corner. What do I mean by that? What I mean is for a couple of these teams, the season starts Saturday. Okay, like for Ole Miss, season starts Saturday when it comes to what we're really going to learn about that football team. Season starts Saturday for a Penn State football team with Oregon coming to town. A lot to unpack, a lot we're going to learn. Also, now I told y'all on Tuesday's show, a lot of games this weekend that we have to break down and predict. I got 3 for you. Florida State, Virginia leading us off here. I got some takes on Notre Dame, Arkansas. We'll pick a winner there. Also, Tennessee going to Starkville. Worth noting, all 3 of the games we're breaking down today, 3 home dogs, man. 3 of them. Do home dogs bite? Remains to be seen. But I want to start with what I just said at the top of this thing. Separation Saturday is this upcoming weekend. What are we going to learn in some of these biggest matchups? I want to start with Penn State at Oregon. Oregon at Penn State. Penn State versus Oregon. Penn State, how real are those national title chops? You know what I mean? Because we've seen them against FIU, seen them against Villanova. You got one of, if not arguably the best roster in the Big Ten rolling into your place, whiteout conditions. If you're going to prove a point as to who you are in the context of this season, this is kind of the game to do it, right? Like Drew Aller, people are talking about the completion percentage that he hasn't had look all that impressive through the first few games and different spots and all that. It's like, okay, I hear all that. I appreciate that. But if you're Penn State, we've said it multiple times, said it during our breakdown, you're not showing the good stuff, man. You save the dessert for after dinner. They're just about to break it out here against Oregon. So I'm really curious to see if we see Penn State look like how we thought they would look in the preseason. Because the preseason narrative was they bring everybody back, went out and got Jim Knowles, brought the quarterback back and Drew Aller. He's in another system, or in another year in the system under Colton Neck. You go out into the portal and go get a couple receivers to help yourself be more explosive and kind of get right. Penn State, if this is the year, then this is the game to announce yourself as this being the year. Now, I'm not saying if Penn State loses this game, they're not still a team that could go compete for a national championship and get hot at the right time and all those things. That's 100% true. Ohio State lost to Oregon last year and then caught fire and did horrible things to Oregon when they played them in the playoff. But the point remains the same. For Penn State, we may be privy to the overall potential of this team in this spot against Oregon. Now, for Oregon, my question and what I think we're going to learn against Penn State for them, how different is Dante Moore? And my gut on this says the guy's got some psychopath to him. We talked about it in our 25 questions segment. If you haven't watched that, another reason to be subscribed, 25 questions for the top 25 teams in college football. We do it every Monday. And we got to talking, myself and Caden Smith, about Dante Moore. He's been there for a minute now. Been through 2 fall camps, 2 spring balls, and so far throughout this season, granted it's Oklahoma State and it's Northwestern, but he's just been dealing. It's one thing to see the numbers, but the way in which he's done it, the ball is jumping out of his hand. He looks in complete control. He's showing composure. He's showing poise. Dante Moore, as of this point in the college football season, looks relatively unflappable, and I'm just really interested to see, does he walk into that wideout against Penn State, against one of the best defensive minds in the sport in Jim Knowles, and look how he's looked to this point in the season where he's just back there playing backyard football, where he's just out there looking like he's out for a walk in the park? Because I get the sense that when we saw Cam Ward walk into the swamp last year in week 1 of the college football season and look how Dante Moore has looked to this point in the season, just casual as all get out, that was the moment where we're like, oh, Cam Ward's got some different to him. He's got some psychopath to him. If Dante Moore looks that way against Penn State, I think we can check the box and say, okay, yeah, psychopath. Proven for Oregon. And if that's the case, a psychopathic quarterback with that roster, with that OC, with that head coach, Oregon will once again, I believe, be playing for a Big Ten championship here in 2025. So a lot to learn when it comes to the Ducks, a lot to learn when it comes to the Nittany Lions. That one is going to be a movie. I can't wait for that one. Cannot wait for that one. Now, another one we got to watch here. Another one we're going to learn a lot about when it comes to these two teams. Alabama playing Georgia in Athens. If I'm Alabama, it's going to be some, what's the right way to say this? It's going to take a little, I think, extra emotional juice to get a win on the road against this football team and Kirby Smart. I'm curious to learn how much of a one-off was that Florida State showing from the Crimson Tide. Because we go back to week 1 and we talk about all the things that Florida State did well, and we should. But we also, in that same vein, talked about how Alabama looked uninterested. They looked low energy. They didn't play with their level of intentionality. And all that is true. But I think when you go play Georgia, with you already having a loss on your schedule to this point to a Florida State football team, like if you're going to have some juice about you, this is the spot to have it. 1, because it's going to require it, but 2, because of the spots you're in and because of what people said about you to this point in the season. Like, I promise you, everyone in that locker room understands what a failure that first game of the year was. They understand how embarrassing that was. So you would hope that lights a fire. And if we see Alabama play with that level of, again, what I just said, the detail, the intentionality, the energy, all those things, then they're going to make this thing really interesting against Georgia. However, if we see them show up lackadaisical again, I'm going to say, okay, well, the Florida State game, you saw that. Against Georgia, you saw that. 2 spots where you would hope you would have it against, formidable opponents. One quarterback's talking smack to you all offseason. The other game, it's Georgia, and it's Kirby Smart. If you can't get up for that game, what's wrong with you? I'm going to say that might just be who this Bama team is. Now, full transparency, I'd be shocked if we saw that from Bama. But if Georgia is able to get a couple over on that defense and get them out of sorts and make them look a little bit, I don't want to say make them look undisciplined, because I don't think that's the point here. But the point is, if you're able to manipulate the back end of that defense, I think we start to also have questions about what that defense is going to be long term. Hey, were we wrong in the preseason about how good that secondary could be, or how good that second year scheme was under Kane Womack? We'll see, but I think we learned a lot about Alabama in this spot relative to a superior competition they've seen to this point in the year, and overall the spot. Do they meet the spot like they didn't meet the spot in week 1? Now for Georgia, I'm really curious to see what Gunner Stockton has under the hood, because he went nuts against Tennessee. We talked about it ad nauseum. Over 3 bills, made the big throws, had some crucial plays where he ran the football. Obviously a touchdown on that first drive where he ran it in. But this Alabama secondary, everything I just said about them having to be intentional and bringing their best to the table against the Georgia football team still holds true. But let's not pretend that's not a talented outfit. Zabian Brown, Damani Jackson, Bray Hubbard, Keon Sott. We go down the list here. I told y'all, if you follow me on the socials, Instagram, Twitter, at Judy PicKell, I tweeted out post-media days, I had 4 Bama DBs on my preseason All-SEC team. And as I was filling it out, I kind of forgot they were all on the same team, if that makes sense. It sounds funny to say out loud, but that's just how I felt. So I say all that to get to this point. If Georgia can throw it against Bama the way they threw it against Tennessee, and Tennessee was dinged up in the secondary, they're playing some young bucks, but if they can go for 3 bills against this Bama defense through the air, I think that, to me, double verifies what this new offense is under Gunner Stockton. I say new offense, same coordinator, still Mike Bobo, but the way they've retooled the weapons with Zachariah Branch, the young bucks they brought in there, like all those pieces paired with your new quarterback, if you can then real deal like push the ball vertical against that defense in this game where you already have a full resume out there for Bama to look at from the Tennessee game, then I think you start saying, okay, if Georgia has that kind of juice offensively with the explosive plays and with Gunner Stockton at quarterback, and they're better on offense, to call a spade here, they're more complimentary on offense, and the defense rounds into form, like Georgia's going to be a wagon. Georgia's once again going to be a team that you feel pretty good about making it to Atlanta. Surprise, surprise. Georgia and Atlanta, who would have thought? But that's something to watch here, because I think that's something we'll learn relative to that matchup between Georgia and Bama. Now, A&M and Auburn is going to be awesome. I can't wait for this one. I've been very high on A&M all offseason and picked them to beat Notre Dame. So here we are, A&M. You've earned the right to have a little bit more pressure on you, earned the right to be a 7-point favorite against what I would call a really talented Auburn roster. But here's the thing. I'm curious to learn, is this the spot where A&M breaks through that glass door of, well, yeah, super talented. Yeah, they'll have a couple good moments. It's a sugar high, but guess what? Sugar high always has a crash on the back end of it, doesn't it? Hey, that win against Notre Dame was awesome. We had a full bye week to celebrate it and talk about how good Marcel Reed was and how fast Mario Craver is and how cool Mike Elko is making Notre Dame or A&M right now after that Notre Dame win. All that is well and good, and I appreciate that. I love that. I'm here for that. But here's the thing, man. Nobody freaking cares if you lose this game to Auburn. Nobody. We'll say, oh, same old A&M. Yeah, we'll see what Notre Dame is. Actually, Notre Dame, come to think of it now, they were 1-2 coming out of week 4 of the college football season. Like, how good is Notre Dame? I'm not saying that, but that conversation will start. And you look down the rest of your schedule, and here's the thing. This is the poisonous part of it. That thought creeping into your building, staring down some of the games that you have left on your schedule, if you're A&M, you start to almost believe that in some respects. Yeah, you know what? Maybe we just kind of caught Notre Dame at the right time on the road. Maybe we got a little bit lucky with that missed holding call and making that play on 4th and goal. All those, the botched extra point. You start to talk yourself into these things, and you start to qualify what that win was in South Bend. That's dangerous. That is rat poison in the reverse order. So here, if A&M is going to be what we keep saying, the new Texas A&M, the consistent A&M, the go about their business, doesn't matter what last week was, doesn't matter what's ahead of you, you handle this game against Auburn like a mature football team. So what we're going to learn is how mature and how far along is Texas A&M relative to the Mike Elko way of doing things. Because we said that when he got the job. He's structure, he's culture, he's grit, he's all the boring things that A&M has lacked. They've always had talent, right? You still have talent right now. You know Mario Craver's awesome. You know Casey Concepcion's awesome. Marcel Reed right now is a top 3 Heisman guy to me. But nobody cares if you lose this game to Auburn in College Station as a touchdown favorite. So are you mature? Are you able to handle this spot against a team now in Auburn? Not like they're walking in here as some mighty operation. Like, they're super duper, they're real deal talented. I think they're better than what their record has shown the last couple of years. They now have, you would hope, a true arm at quarterback to maximize those players on the outside. Remains to be seen if they can do that. The point being, if A&M does show up and feels good about themselves, having beaten Notre Dame, and they read all the hype on Twitter over the bye week, Auburn's good enough to beat you. I don't know if that needed to be said out loud, but we're saying it right now just to make sure it's crystal clear. A immature Texas A&M football team will lose this game to Auburn. Mark my words. So A&M, ball in your court. We picked you to win, full transparency, picked you to win this game, but we find out how mature they are, how far along they are in, I guess, buying into the Mike Elko way of doing things, and it'll show up in this spot in College Station. So that'll be a big one. Now, a game that's gotten some more juice over the last 48 hours is LSU Ole Miss, by nature of a certain hard launch that happened between Lane Kiffin's spawn and a linebacker for LSU. I digress. For Ole Miss, I want to start there. Nothing to do with Lane Kiffin's daughter. Everything to do with what's going on at quarterback for Ole Miss. Listen, we did a full, again, I keep plugging this segment throughout this show, but I think it's important. 25 questions, 25 teams. The question about Ole Miss from our very own Caden Smith was, hey, is Trinidad Chambliss the guy going forward here for Ole Miss at quarterback? And it's funny, like, as I answered that question and as I sat with it throughout the rest of the day, as I broke down the game itself, Ole Miss and LSU, I was like, it never even was a thought to me that Trinidad Chambliss maybe wouldn't be your starting quarterback in 6 weeks' time for Ole Miss, assuming everyone's healthy. I think Trinidad Chambliss has proven he gives you the best chance to win football games. He gives you the best chance to make your offense more dynamic with what he is on the ground. Okay, so there's that part of it. What we'll learn in this game for Ole Miss, I think if he beats LSU and looks good against that defense, who I think is top 2 in America right now, according to just like how they've looked on Saturdays, I think at that point, your hands are tied if you're Lane Kiffin. Like, this dude's, I think just the eye test in general and what his numbers say are incredible, and I think that in itself is like, yeah, he's probably your guy to go with. But if he beats LSU, I'm an Austin Simmons fan, but there's no conversation around who your quarterback is going forward. So we could learn, I think, here who the Ole Miss quarterback's going to be in the month of October and November if he goes out there and beats LSU in this spot in Oxford. So that'll be huge. Now for LSU, here's the big question, and here's the thing we'll learn. This is something I get a little bit excited about, having picked the old Tigers to win the national championship. So roll with me here. For LSU, we're about to figure out if that run game is good enough. All right, we talked a lot about Brian Kelly's accusation of LSU as a media or a fan base being spoiled, quote unquote, which neither here nor there. If you can't run the football against Ole Miss, you will not win the national championship. And that's not even an opinion. That's just a fact. Ole Miss, the way they align defensively, they are allowing 5 yards a carry. They play with 3 true defensive linemen in their defensive structure. There is opportunity abounding in this game to run the ball. So if you can't get a push up front, Caden Durham, we can't get north and south against that defense, we got real problems. Because here's the deal, it doesn't get easier. Against Bama, it's not getting easier. In the college football playoff, when you draw whoever you want to pick, doesn't get easier. So I'm not saying you can't evolve from this game, but we're going to find out, I think, here pretty quickly if LSU's offensive line has the chops to take this team where I think they ultimately expect to go, which is, again, competing for and winning a national championship. So in that spot here, going to be very telling. I love Garrett Nussmeier. I love the weapons. I even love Caden Durham. But if we can't get a push against Ole Miss for the umpteenth time here, it's going to be problems. Going to be very, very problematic. Last thing we'll learn here, Ohio State and Washington is in Seattle. It's going to be awesome. I think it's quietly one of the better games of the entire weekend. You got the headliners of Penn State and Oregon and Alabama, Georgia. But Ohio State going to Seattle, I think we're going to learn just how far along Julian Sayin is and how far along he is at this point in the year will give us a good gauge for what his trajectory is come, October and November. And for Ohio State, it's no secret, man. To go accomplish what they want to accomplish, you got to maximize Jeremiah Smith. You got to maximize Carnell Tate. You got to maximize Brennan Ennis. Like, we're saying a lot of names here because that's kind of the deal for Ohio State. They're stacked at wide receiver. But if we're not able to consistently and effectively push the ball downfield at the quarterback position, guess what? We're playing left-handed. And the Big Ten is far too talented across the board, is too good. I mean, with Indiana showing up, with Oregon showing up, with Michigan and what they are, Penn State, far too good to win the Big Ten left-handed. Now, I'm not saying you can't, do what you did last year and make the playoff and find your footing and then get hot at the right time. But, for Julian saying, man, I think Ohio State could win this game by playing ugly and just handing the ball off and all those things. But guess what? You're at Illinois October 11th. I'd like to see something that gets me excited. You play Penn State November 1st. I'd like to see something that gets me excited. Now, I've said this before. I'm a Julian Sayin believer. Before the year, one of our predictions was he would win the Big Ten passing title, throw for the most yards in the Big Ten, because that's kind of what Ohio State has done. But I don't really question his competitive disposition. Seems like a cool customer. I don't really question if the game's too fast. I love all the ingredients with Julian Sayin. I just want to see him do it in a spot now, on the road, in a hostile environment, in a stadium that, for Washington, man, let's call a spade here. This is their Super Bowl with Ohio State coming to town. Do you have that level of juice to make me feel good about what you are here going forward? Can you handle this spot, get it to the playmakers, and make this Ohio State offense look how it's supposed to look, which is, again, playing to our strengths? So a lot to be learned here, Separation Saturday. I'm excited for it. You're excited for it. A lot of good stuff on the docket here with all those games. But let me know what you're excited for, man, because it's going to be a tremendous Separation Saturday this upcoming weekend. Kato, anything to add there, man? We just went through a ton of games. Anything that you're looking forward to learning or you're excited about or just top of mind as we jump into these game previews before we go ahead with that slate I just mentioned?
Yeah, I think you may have missed the biggest thing that could be learned from these matchups. Talking about Alabama, Georgia, I think Ty Simpson has the most to be learned about just across all of these games. I think everyone kind of puts the blame of the Florida State game on everyone else on the team but Ty Simpson. And I think we've seen him play better. We really like how he looked against Wisconsin, all their other games they've had against lesser competition. But now you're playing Georgia. So I think he's going to have to answer, is he a big game player? He played the best he could against Florida State, but is he going to be the kind of guy that can be a trailer or a truck? Is he going to pull this Alabama team to heights that they want to reach, or is the rest of the team around him going to have to be there for him for Alabama to get to where they want to go? Huge moment in Athens against Kirby Smart. If he can play to that level that we've seen against Wisconsin and UAB, it'll be awesome. It'll be great to see Ty play like that. But I think there's a lot to learn about him as well. What do you think there is to learn about Ty Simpson maybe in that matchup?
No, I think that's well put. I mean, Kirby Smart called him the hottest quarterback in the country right now. He's a good-looking dude, but hottest is high praise. But no, in all seriousness, we saw him look different from the Florida State game to when you just mentioned all the way to that Wisconsin game. Just different confidence, different level of just presence. Like, it looked like his football team. It looked like his offense. It didn't look that way the first week against Florida State. So, I mean, if you're going to make a statement of, no, this is new Bama, that first game was an anomaly, we didn't get our footing, all those things, I think this is a spot where what you just mentioned, if Ty Simpson's a dude now, if Ty Simpson is, as Kirby Smart says, one of the best quarterbacks at this point in time in college football, Bama has the talent to go play with anybody. Definitely. I think we both believe that, but we're going to learn about it, man.
Definitely. I think there's a lot to be learned about all the quarterbacks, and I think he's one of the more fascinating ones for sure. Because, I mean, you look at how he's playing. Like, he's playing better than Garrett Nussmeier right now. I think, not better than a Marcel Reeder or John Mateer. Like, the SEC quarterback hierarchy is still a lot to be learned for sure. But I think these next couple months, like once we get into the thick of college football play, SEC play specifically, that's when we'll learn which are the guys you want down, need a touchdown, need to get in field goal range. Like, we'll parse out who those guys are in the next couple months, and I think this opportunity, Gunnar Stockton already showed, like, way game, playing Tennessee.
Yep.
He showed a lot of people something they hadn't seen before from him in that Georgia offense. So I think this weekend for Ty Simpson, there's that opportunity on the table for him for sure.
And you'd think, too, against Georgia, with what you saw from them against Tennessee, if there is some money on the table, it's probably on the back end of that defense. Mm-hmm. There's probably some plays to be had. And you go back to what last year was for Alabama with Ryan Williams having what some people would call the play of the year with the pirouette, stop-start, up the sideline. Like, plays to be had. And if they're going to be had, it's all on Ty Simpson to get that done. I think it's a great point, Cato.
Yeah, I think last year, don't forget what Heisman hype came with a Jalen Milroe performance against Georgia. Gosh. So if there's any believers out there in Ty Simpson winning the Heisman, you might want to get those in before this game because I think the upside could be there on BetMGM potentially.
Dude, the Jalen Milroe stock was sky high.
Mel Kiper was saying he was the number 1 overall pick after that game.
Dude, he played like it. It was it was crazy. Like Joel Klatt, I think, even said on his spot with Next Round Live, he's like, I don't know how you stop the Bama offense. Like, if they're playing like that, like the Bama offense is going to be unstoppable. Like, we were all saying that. And then it was 2 very different sample sizes from there on out. But point stands of what you just said. Ty Simpson, if you're a believer, get on that train now because it's going to leave the station if they beat Georgia. He looks good. Good stuff, Cato, as always. Hey, we got a big show today. I should have mentioned this at the top of this episode, but we got Mario Cristobal on the show at the end of this thing, so make sure you're locked in for that. Miami will play Florida State after their bye week. Now, if it's a battle of unbeatens, Florida State is going to have to get a win on the road at Virginia, which segues perfectly into our prediction for that game. Florida State, Friday night, 7 Eastern, ESPN, at Virginia. It's Charlottesville, baby. This is one where, if you're Virginia, you still remember beating Florida State in 1995. You still remember and hold close to your heart beating Florida State in 2006. Like, Virginia is absolutely going to give Florida State their best shot. They'll play with some pride, play with some emotion. That crowd you would hope and expect is all the way engaged and trying to get into a head of A1 Thomas Castellanos. Virginia is going to throw some punches in this one. Mark my words. For Florida State, congratulations. Your nap is over with. You beat Alabama. Thomas Castellanos, I think, is a top 3 Heisman caliber kind of quarterback at this point in time. But now you're playing a team with a pulse. You're playing a team that if you don't bring it on a Friday night, could beat you. More on that in a little bit here as it pertains to the spot. But I'm really curious, when you watch Virginia on tape and what they do offensively, they play with a lot of 12 personnel, which is football speak for 1 running back, 2 tight ends. Why does that matter? Desmond Kitchings, offensive coordinator for Virginia, also tight ends coach, what you do when you align with 2 tight ends, it screams to the defense, hey, we're going to run the football. Or at the very least, if we do run the football, we have more big bodies because we took receivers off the field for these 2 big tight ends to get a push on your safety, your linebacker, whoever. And they've done that at a high level. I mean, I know they haven't really played all that stiff of competition, has Virginia, but they are averaging 5.5 yards a carry, over 200 yards on the ground. So they do that, but they pair that really well with a passing game that is dynamic as all get out. Why do they do that? In my opinion, because they're able to take defenses out of their comfort zone where they have to play the run a little bit more effectively. They have to be a little bit more aggressive downhill because, again, 2 tight ends, we got big bodies. We can block you more easily. If you don't play aggressive in the run game, shots over the top, and that's how they score a lot of points. Chandler Morris has been shredding defenses. Chandler Morris, if that name sounds familiar, he's bounced around a little bit. Started his career at Oklahoma, was at TCU, was at North Texas. Now he's at Virginia. He's been hooping. All right, if you go have some time, go watch some Chandler Morris highlights and just enjoy the presence that is what he's done on tape to this point in the year for the Cavs. Here's what I want to do to just validate how good of a quarterback Chandler Morris is, because I know he's been in different places, and anytime you see a bunch of different logos on a guy's profile on all3.com, you're like, why couldn't he cut it at TCU, North Texas, so on and so forth? He did cut it at North Texas, for the record, but Chandler Morris was recruited by Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma. So if you trust Lincoln Riley knowing quarterbacks, he wanted Chandler Morris on his roster, and Chandler Morris is making him look smart right now with what he's done at Virginia with that offense. So that's going to be a big part of this game. Can Florida State effectively be aggressive enough in the run game, but also not get got with their hand in the cookie jar and get shredded downfield by Chandler Morris? Because with the spot this is, Friday night, engaged crowd, you would imagine there's going to be a lot of juice in that stadium. I think Chandler Morris in that offense will just be itching to pull the trigger, cut one loose, hit one over the top, and light that stadium in Charlottesville on fire. At that point, momentum rises, pressure on Florida State to answer, all those things. Keeping the crowd engaged with big plays like that, I promise you they would love to live that way if you're Tony Elliott, the head coach at Virginia and company. Now, we speak about the discipline that Florida State has to have on defense. Virginia, you got your work cut out for you, baby. All right, if you go watch what Florida State has done offensively, it has been a circus. I mean, it's window dressing, it's pre-snap movement, it's reverses, it's 400-meter guys just blazing down the sideline against Alabama, and Thomas Castellanos makes it all go. So the point here for Virginia, if you're going to try and slow down Florida State, you got to be extra assignment sound. Meaning you're not chasing a motion that's not yours. You're not trying to be Superman and make a tackle on the loss when that's not your responsibility. You got to play your gap. You have to play your assignment. And if you do that now, you keep it all in front of you, then you win in space. Now, my concern a little bit here is Virginia got a couple of times against Stanford. Now, they blew the doors off Stanford, so don't hear me incorrectly. But got a couple of times being overly aggressive against Stanford on the play action stuff downfield. It was shots, and they got burned a couple times. If Stanford's doing that, Florida State, no disrespect to the outfit that Andrew Luck is assembling right now on the farm, but Florida State's got better players. I don't think that's really breaking news to anybody. The overall team speed of Florida State, I think, is going to be very difficult for Virginia to deal with in this spot. It's going to take a lot of good angles. It's going to take a lot of winning with scheme on the defensive side. Thomas Castellanos, I think what he's done to this point in the year is nothing short of a spectacle to behold. A big reason why he eats up angles. He eats up a misalignment from your defense. And so all those things go together to where I think Virginia has got to be darn near perfect with how they align defensively, how they attack this Florida State offense, because it can happen very fast for you. It can happen very fast where, again, you fill the wrong gap, Thomas Castellanos out the back door, down the sideline, we got problems. Curious to see, again, how Virginia aligns here to the Florida State offense. I've seen some different looks from Virginia, but seem like they want to be a 4 defensive lineman kind of outfit out there, which to me concerns me because I think you have to play with a different level of speed against this Florida State offense, neither here nor there. But I mentioned Virginia a lot at the top of this thing because I wanted to make sure we covered what they do offensively, what they pose as a threat to Florida State. But I say all of that to bring it back to this point. It's still about Florida State to me. They're more talented. I think they are more of a threat to win the conference. I think that overall, with what they've proven to this point in the year, having beaten Alabama, they are overall like a more dangerous football team. But the reason why you could get beat if you're Florida State on the road as a favorite is if you don't take this spot seriously. Now, if you've watched this show and you're a Florida State fan, you know where I'm going with this. You've heard me say it ad nauseum. Subscribe, by the way. But you've heard me say this a lot. It's not about can you bring your best to everyone watching. That doesn't win you, trophies in college football. It does in, Championship Saturday and those big moments, of course, but like my point being, why do teams get upset any given week in college football? Because they sleepwalk out there against a team that maybe wants it a little bit more than them, a little bit more engaged. They don't play their best, the other team does. It's a funny game with a funny shaped football. Like it's kind of how this whole thing can get out of your hands and can be a little bit wacky. Okay, so for Florida State, to go back to what I was saying, this is my test for them is, can you play like you did against Alabama when you don't have the hype around a game like this game with Virginia. Like the Bama game everyone's excited about, right? If you're Florida State, you're a 2-touchdown dog at home. Thomas Castellanos is talking trash, getting his guys juiced up. You're off a 2-win season. Like there's a lot of reasons to be excited about Alabama. If for no other reason, it's Alabama. But now it's Friday night. You're going on the road to Charlottesville. That Virginia logo you don't usually associate with powerhouse potential in college football. Can you block all that out, still play your best, prove a point that you're going to bring your best every single Saturday or as close to it, and go win a football game on a short week? That's what I'm curious to see. Picking this game, I do think that Florida State plays to their internal standard. They don't stoop down. I also think, though, that Virginia is scrappy. I think they play with some pride. I think this is kind of close all game long, but I think that Florida State backdoor covers this thing late. So I'll take the Noles to win and cover. Final score in Charlottesville, 34-24 Florida State. They passed that test on Friday night. Keep a good thing going. And we talk about the maturity of Florida State the Sunday, I guess the Saturday after this game. It's afraid I'll play it on Friday. Talk about the maturity of Florida State after this one is finished. And we are once again saying this is a brand new Florida State football team, and they have the approach to show for it. All right. So that'll be big for the folks out there in Tallahassee. Winning on a short week. I know they had the bye week, so that's a big deal. But winning on a short week, or not the bye week, excuse me. Winning on a short week is a big deal for Florida State. All right. So we'll keep a good thing going here ourselves. We got Notre Dame at Arkansas, noon Eastern, ABC. Notre Dame, 4.5-point favorites walking into Fayetteville. Right? Interesting. Very interesting. Notre Dame's in playoff mode. For those of y'all that have them keeping tabs. Lose too early. Now, 2 good losses, make no mistake. I think if you run the table if you're Notre Dame and you make it look convincing, maybe you feel good about your playoff chances. But you can't lose a third, especially not with no conference title game to help you get in from the auto bid perspective. So you're in playoff mode, noon kick, on the road, kind of sleepy situation. Can you bring your best? Kind of the whole sentiment for this weekend. Can you bring your best in a weird spot if you're the Irish? I believe this line opened at Notre Dame minus 5.5 down to 4.5, according to BetMGM. Interesting. Keep tabs on that. Arkansas, man, you just lost to Memphis. Now, Caden Smith produced the hard count here, picked Memphis as his G5 team to be in the college football playoff. Just make sure that's on notice here. So Memphis, not the worst loss in the world, but I don't think Arkansas is taking that any more lightly. Can you bounce back here? All right? Tough look. Played Ole Miss tough a couple weeks ago. Can you bounce back here? Because if you go beat Notre Dame, all right, talk about Sam Pittman differently, talk about Taylor Green differently, talk about what you would accomplish this year differently, because Notre Dame's super talented, and I think that in itself would be a nice little feather in the cap. So we'll break this down. We'll pick a winner. Before we do that, though, one, make sure you're subscribed. The first part of this. Second part of this show brought to you by Game Time. All right, Game Time is the best way to buy tickets. If you want to be at this game, Game Time is going to make sure that you get the, one, view from your seat before you purchase. 2, it's going to make sure you buy the seat at a affordable, safe, affordable price, safe way to buy it. You can also buy last minute. So if you're an Arkansas fan, you're sitting there, you're like, man, do I really want to buy this ticket? Maybe I can watch at home. Track it on Game Time. And at the morning, Saturday morning, Friday night, you're like, okay, forget it. I'm going to go. Game Time will make sure you have the best prices available to you via their app. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code HARDCOUNT for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, code HARDCOUNT, HARDCOUNT, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Swipe, tap, ticket, download the Game Time app today. So for the Razorback fans that want to get out there, not a bad way to get that done. All right. Notre Dame, if you want to get beat, then just don't even worry about Taylor Green. Okay? The thing that concerns me a little bit in this spot is the man coverage Notre Dame is going to play. It's been kind of the staple of their defense over the course of the last couple of years. I'm here for it. Do you stick to your identity? But the thing with man coverage is when you're playing your receiver, your back is where? To the quarterback. Taylor Green's one of those individuals that I would like to have eyes on at all times. So I don't think that Chris Ash is going to trot out there with no plan to keep Taylor Green at bay. But how effective is that while you're playing man coverage? Is it a spy? Do we play some more zone coverage? I don't know. But Taylor Green is the way that Arkansas wins this football game. He's had a couple of 300 passing yards, 100 rushing yards games this year. That is one of those things that would make this thing real interesting in the fourth quarter. Believe you me. Now, for Arkansas, we got to sell out to stop the run, man. Like, you're allowing 4.7 yards a carry. You're up against one of arguably the best backfields in college football in Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. Like, they're going to eat greedy if you allow them. So if I'm Arkansas, again, I'm rolling a safety down. I'm putting another linebacker on the field. I'm triggering more quickly because we cannot get beat by Notre Dame running for 200 yards on the ground. Like, that cannot be the way that we live. What we'd like to have happen for Arkansas is win on first down, win on second down, create C.J. Carr, obvious pass situations. This is the most difficult, I think. Miami's a pretty difficult road spot. This is arguably as difficult a road spot as C.J. Carr will have. Not to say anything of Hard Rock, but you look at the time of the game, you look at the spot in Fayetteville, they will be dialed in, I promise you. This is going to be really interesting to see how C.J. Carr approaches the situation. So, again, if I'm Arkansas, I want to put the game on him. I don't want to die the quick death of getting just creased several times by Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price comes in and finishes it off. I don't want that world to be lived in if I'm Arkansas. So the early part of this game, for that reason, is huge. If you're Notre Dame, you get up early, call it 13-0 in the second quarter, going at half. You have the ability to then shrink the game, slow it down, Love, Price, all those things, because guess what? Then Taylor Green gets less touches. Less touches for Taylor Green is always going to be a good situation if you're the Fighting Irish. This cannot be the ugly C.J. Carr game, going back to what I just said a second ago. If he's out there and throwing 2-3 picks, extra possessions for Arkansas, confidence goes down for C.J. Carr. You actually need more from C.J. Carr then at that point to push the ball downfield, get you back into the game. I don't want to live that way from Notre Dame. So I'm not saying you play conservative by any stretch of the imagination, but C.J. Carr, if we needed a clean game from your brother, this is the spot. This is absolutely the spot. So here's how I feel about this game. I think that, again, Taylor Green could be the one that takes it over. I don't think that's unreasonable by any stretch of the imagination. I think Arkansas is going to be scrappy in this spot after the loss to Memphis. I think there's some pride. I think there's some bounce-back feel to it. Here's the thing, though. I think Notre Dame's also got some desperation of them. I think playoff mode Marcus Freeman is a real thing. I think Notre Dame wins this game, but I think that Arkansas actually keeps it relatively close. That line dropping makes me nervous. I'm going to think that the Irish win this game, but I'm also going to think and predict that Arkansas covers. So we're threading the needle here. Roll with us. Notre Dame wins. Arkansas covers. Final score 33-30 in Fayetteville. If you like a total in this game, I think it's like north of 60. Not a bad spot to take it. Andy and I are all over that, so get on that. But Notre Dame wins, Arkansas covers, and the Irish survive in advance in the regular season. One more game to break down here. Tennessee going to Stark Vegas to play Mississippi State, 4:15 Eastern, SEC Network. You got the cowbells out and about. Tennessee favored by 7.5. If I'm Tennessee, this is that spot now. Keep your eye on the freaking ball. The Georgia game didn't go how you wanted to. You were in a spot where you could have won that game. You have a walk-through opponent last weekend. No disrespect to Tennessee's schedule, but that's kind of what it was. And now you're in a spot where you're going on the road and playing a team in Mississippi State, who, if we're going to keep it a buck here, they've ruined a Saturday before. Arizona State rolled into Stark Vegas, also favored by a touchdown plus, and Mississippi State took their will in that game. Okay, I'm just saying, they've done it before. I would not sleepwalk into this spot. If you do, you have the potential to get beat, okay? I also think it's worth noting, Mississippi State having won a game against a formidable opponent at this point in time. Arizona State at that point in time thought they were a college football playoff team. Maybe they still are. Mississippi State, you would think, has a little bit extra confidence. Like, I'm not feeling fearful of Mississippi State with Tennessee on the other side, because I know we are good enough to hang with teams like an Arizona State, beat a team like Arizona State. Like, let's roll. I'm not tippy-toeing into this thing. Mississippi State is led by Blake Shapen. Let me just say this. He's a freaking good quarterback. And I know he doesn't have the same, notoriety or name power that some of the other quarterbacks do across the conference, but I will keep on saying this into a camera as long as I can, as long as there is something to back this statement. Blake Shapen at Baylor, Oklahoma State, Big 12 title game in Jerry World, walks out there, and the starter for Baylor had gone down earlier, and Blake Shapen gets the start. Blake Shapen went nuts in that first half. He was poised. He was accurate. He was making plays with his legs. Like, he has got all the tools, I think, to be a high-level quarterback. He's been to this point for Mississippi State. On top of that, he's got receivers in a Brennan Thompson, who is one of the fastest players in college football, and an Anthony Evans, transfer receiver from Georgia, who have had big years to this point. Translation, all the pieces are there for this Jeff Lebby offense with the quarterback, with the weapons, to make you pay. And if you're Tennessee, I know you've been dinged up in the secondary. I understand it hasn't been a perfect year on that side of things, but you saw what Georgia did. Blake Shapen and this team can do that to you. Now the question is, do you demand enough in the run game, if you're Mississippi State, to get those matchups you want in the pass game against Tennessee? Because it's a funny matchup. Jeff Lebby, Josh Heupel, similar stylistically in how they call the offense. Both wide splits, both up-tempo, both have that Briles influence, if you will. So that's going to be a lot of fun to watch here. So I mentioned Blake Shapen. Joey Aguilar, it's kind of the same thing. The difference is, for Joey Aguilar, I think the line of scrimmage advantage for Tennessee in this game is real. So as much as I need Joey Aguilar to make the throws downfield and make this offense hum, all those things, we have better players if we're Tennessee. And that's not me knocking Mississippi State. Josh Heupel's been in Knoxville for a longer period of time than Jeff Lebby has. Jeff Lebby, I think, will eventually get it right, should be given the time. But Josh Heupel has had several years to build this roster. If I'm Joey Aguilar, yes, the task is push the ball downfield, but the other task is don't get too greedy. Don't spot Blake Shapen extra possessions. I love the gunslinger effect with Joey Aguilar, but I need him to make sure that we are not having those crucial turnovers that make this thing uncomfortable for us in the fourth quarter. Because, again, on the road, a lot can happen in a little bit of time with this game against Mississippi State, with it being in Stark Vegas. So just take what the defense gives you. Let's be poised. Let's have some composure. And Joey Aguilar, don't get too greedy. If you do, that's how this game gets weird. So I say all that to get to this point. The way that Mississippi State calls their defense, it is the 3-3-5, which is great because you got speed on the field to try and account for, the speed of Tennessee on the perimeter and Chris Brazzell and Mike Matthews and all that, and that's good. But Tennessee, we keep saying this, they are still a run-the-football kind of team. And even though Mississippi State beat Arizona State, that's really their only good filter of competition for us to talk about at this point in time, Arizona State still went for 251 on the ground. Like, Mississippi State won that game because of two things. One, they got 2 interceptions off Sam Leavitt. Going back to my point, Joey Aguilar can't do that. 2, they were explosive in their own right in the pass game. Several coverage busts from Arizona State. Had a couple of big pass plays that ultimately made ASU pay. So if I'm Mississippi State, I worry a little bit about the path to winning this game. It's very, as Cato would say, producer of the hard count, it's very fly too close to the sun-ish to win this game. Like, there's a lot that I think has to happen negative for Tennessee for Mississippi State to find a way to win. So I don't love the Icarus game plan. I love Tennessee and their ability to run the football. I love the offensive line and the running back room for Tennessee. I think that Tennessee wins this game. I think they cover. I think the final score in Starkville is Tennessee 31, Mississippi State 21. Nothing to say of Jeff Lebby and what he's building, but I just think Tennessee and what they have right now is further along roster-wise, line of scrimmage-wise, and we see that pay dividends in this spot for Josh Heupel and company. Okay, so we got Mario Cristobal here in a matter of moments, and what they're doing at Miami is nothing short of phenomenal to this point in the season. A lot of fun talking to him and hearing what they got rolling right now in Coral Gables. But unfortunately, we got to talk about some negative news as it pertains to what's going on in the college football world for a certain head coach at Oklahoma State, formerly at Oklahoma State. Mike Gundy fired after 21 seasons as the head coach in Stillwater. This is it's kind of weird as a college football fan because you always imagine Oklahoma State being coached by that mullet, by that personality, by that voice. I appreciate what Mike Gundy has done for college football and what he has been for that school at Oklahoma State. Like, Andy Nari said this on their reaction to the firing of Mike Gundy, and they're on the money. Mike Gundy is the best coach Oklahoma State has ever had. So I want to make sure, as much as we're going to talk about what didn't go right and who's going to replace him and all those things, I want to make sure we give him his flowers and we make sure we are respectful of what he built out there in Stillwater. I want to say this too. If NIL never exists, Mike Gundy might coach for 5 to 10 more years. Like, I think what he is as a football coach in and of itself deserves to be honored and respected and remembered the right way with what he did at Oklahoma State. But the reality is NIL does exist, and it sounds like either he was resentful of Oklahoma State didn't have the proper resources to be successful. The most recent example of that is the Oregon game and Mike Gundy speaking at the press conference to what Oregon has, what Oklahoma State doesn't have. I digress. So Oklahoma State, moving forward, seems like they need to adapt. They will adapt now by hiring somebody new to be the head coach in Stillwater. To break it all down, let's bring in Caden Smith to get his take on this thing. Hey, Caden, if it's me, dude, I know there's a lot of talk around potential sitting head coach being the guy for UCLA and for Virginia Tech. I'd go the coordinator route here, honestly. I would explore that pretty heavily because you got Shannon Dawson, you got Will Stein, a couple of names that I think are going to be thrown out for other coaching searches. Colin Klein could be a name that you look at. A lot of exciting names that feel like guys are going to be head coaches at some point in time. Why not Oklahoma State?
Yeah, I think the first two names I thought of just geographically were like Ben Arbuckle and Colin Klein.
Yeah.
Like if either of those offenses really pops and we see either of those teams maybe make a conference title run or a college football playoff run, I think that'd be very intriguing to Oklahoma State for sure. And then even just staying in the state of Texas too, I'm seeing a lot of people talking about the Jeff Trailers of the world and G.J. Kinney, some group of five guys who have been in positions with less resources than you get at the Power 4 level, so they might be more comfortable in that kind of situation than Mike Gundy would be as far as NIL backing and stuff. But definitely just a tough beat in general, man. It's obviously their winningest head coach ever, their best head coach ever. You think for programs like themselves, when Texas and Oklahoma leave the conference, you kind of get hard eyes. You're like, okay, like this might be our time to take over the conference. And Oklahoma State was definitely poised to do that under Mike Gundy, and it just didn't go his way. They're awful last year. It wasn't trending in a good direction this season. So we'll see what they are moving forward, see what Mike Gundy does moving forward. I always think it's just as interesting to see what these coaches do. I know I'd be in the Jimbo Fisher coaching tree with a buyout, and you probably wouldn't see me again. I'd be on an island somewhere.
Yeah.
But we'll see what Gundy does just because he is such a fun personality, fun hairstyle as always, and a grown man, of course.
Grown man. He's not 40 anymore, but at one point in time he was 40 and made sure everybody knew. One of the greatest press conferences, I think, just like of all time, any sport, in my humble opinion. But I think what you said is interesting. Recruiting the state of Texas is got to be paramount for whoever you hire, which is one reason why I think Colin Klein makes a lot of sense. He's familiar with the Big 12, having played at Kansas State. Obviously the coordinator right now at A&M, and they're looking phenomenal early on in the season with their offensive production. Like a guy who can recruit Texas is going to be so important for whoever takes over that job because there's so much talent in that state. You're so close to that state, being Oklahoma State. Like that's what I think you really have to keep in mind at a pretty high level in this spot. Jeff Traylor, I think, is, if I'm not going the coordinator route, one that would get me excited if I was an Oklahoma State fan. Because we keep saying what you just said. Resources may not be, at this point in time, the strong point of Oklahoma State. Now maybe that changes with the next head coach. Maybe they see what happened with Mike Gundy and say, okay, we can't live that way again. But if it is a situation where you may not have the nicest car out front and have the ice sculptures in the locker room and all those things, it's like, okay, well, the dude who made 5 consecutive bowls, who was a former head coach in the state of Texas, a guy who has had pretty good success at UTSA just in general, he's going to be a head coach at some point too, Cato, you think, at the Power 4 level in Jeff Traylor. He might be my pick if I wasn't going the coordinator route and wanted to go just like sitting head coach at some level. Makes a lot of sense, Jeff Traylor.
Yeah, and he's a Texas high school coaching legend. Like
yeah.
There's stadiums named after him there. He is the man there. So if we're talking about connections in the state of Texas and recruiting there, if that's the main priority, that's a great choice for sure. I think Jeff Traylor would be a slam dunk hire. He kind of fits the mold I think as well there. I think he's just a good program fit for what they got going on there. G.J. Kinney in a way is like an interesting kind of maybe more modern version of a Jeff Traylor. This is a guy who immediately showed up to Texas State and turned that a program around like that through the transfer portal. And a lot of that was leveraging players that were in the transfer portal that are originally from the state of Texas. So in a weird way, he's also equipped to maybe even more for the modern day of football, flip a roster, get things going through the portal and run a high level offense. His offensive coordinator from before Mac left, which is now at Texas Tech. And we saw what that offense was able to do this past weekend against Utah. It has a ton of different principles, air raid principles, Josh Heupel kind of principles with the spacing. Like he's an offensive guru who can also make it work through the portal. So I think either of those guys would be a slam dunk if you're not going the coordinator route. I agree there.
Which is also, to go back to the coordinator route, a reason why you might be excited about a guy like Shannon Dawson, a guy who has blended the air raid principles into the power run stuff, into the RPO stuff. Like if you want to get dynamic offensively, you hire Shannon Dawson, who I think fit perspective would make a lot of sense there, being from the Hal Mummy, Mike Leach coaching tree. Like that would be a exciting fit, I think, in of itself. One more name, Cato, that I feel like I saw on social media floating around there. I don't know how much sense it would make to leave the NFL, but Zach Robinson played quarterback at Oklahoma State, had a good career at Oklahoma State, currently the OC for the Atlanta Falcons. I don't know if I am leaving the NFL to go be a head coach in college football, but if you went to the place and you want to go bring it back to its former glory, I wonder if the heartstrings maybe tugged the guy back to his alma mater in Stillwater.
Yeah, and we know like Mike Gundy played quarterback at Oklahoma State. Like, he's an Oklahoma guy through and through. So if that's what they're looking for, if they're looking for another long tenure, then maybe that's the way to go. I think just in general, though, through what we've talked about previously with Virginia Tech and UCLA and now with Oklahoma State, like, who wants to be a college head coach? You kind of mentioned it with this scenario with Zach Robinson. Like, it's going to be interesting to see out of these hot boards and stuff, like, does an SEC coordinator going into the fold, becoming a Big 12 head coach, like, make sense for us when we talk about the Kleins and of the world? Like, sure. Yeah, but would you rather be the Oklahoma offensive coordinator or the Texas A&M offensive coordinator or the head coach at Oklahoma State? Like, yeah. I think if you ask just anyone who has any pulse of college football, you'll get different answers all around. There's plenty of coaches who we've seen move on to the pro game because of the nuances that come with college football. So I think we are going to see a coaching cycle that we haven't seen in a while. And I think on top of that, the landscape has changed so much, and what's required of a head coach has changed so much that it's just going to be interesting to see not only the dominoes that fall, and when one spot gets filled, that leaves another one open. And I think there's going to be a lot of talk this offseason about just the head coaching dominoes. But I think in general, it'll be interesting to see, too, which guys are like, hey, I'm good where I'm at right now, or don't want to be a head coach, or would rather be a coordinator somewhere else. It's a very interesting landscape right now. We've seen a lot of interesting moves on paper from a job perspective, but when you think about what the CEO role is now of a college head coach, it makes a little bit of sense.
That's almost why I think you would – prefer is a funny way to put it, but I think it's almost why I would lean going towards the sitting head coach route, just regardless of job, because I want someone that's going to understand – hey, just what you said, it's a CEO position. Like, yes, you got to call plays. Yes, you got to assemble a staff in some respects and all those things. But, like, we need to make sure we have the roster side of this totally dialed in. So maybe you go the coordinator route, which I'd be excited about. But, again, if I'm just, like, independent of job, sitting head coach, knowing what you're walking into would make a lot of sense. Wild times in college football, man.
Very wild times for sure, man. I'm pumped for the first domino to fall and us just to see an absolute chain reaction of one coach replacing another coach, replacing another coach, replacing another coach. We didn't have it since Saban retired. So hopefully we'll get an exciting offseason for sure. It's our job to keep people entertained and into college football year round. So when you have a slate like this weekend, it's easy, but in the offseason, have some coaching changes and makes things a little bit more juicy, get a couple more people tuned into the hard count maybe.
It ramps up, man. It ramps up. So I guess the final thought here, the coordinator market is ripe. I'd be excited about going after a coordinator. All things being equal, having someone as a CEO in college football, a Jeff Traylor who gets it, that would also make a lot of sense to me. So we'll see, Kate. It's going to be a lot of fun, man. But like you mentioned, the carousel is turning. The jobs are opening up a little bit earlier this year. But regardless, we will track it and give you our takes on it and give you our intel on it as we move further and further into this thing. So make sure you have a membership over at on3.com to get all the intel. Pete Nakos, the entire team, crushing it, so make sure you're dialed in over there. But like I promised, man, we got Coach Mario Cristobal of the Miami Hurricanes joining us here. A lot of good stuff. We talked Malachi Toney. We talked Carson Beck. We talked the Florida State-Miami rivalry. We talked about his relationship with Nick Saban. A lot of good stuff here with Coach. We appreciate all his time. We appreciate y'all making this show what it is. We're going to keep this party rolling. Without further ado, here's Mario Cristobal. We'll see y'all next time. Joining us now, the head coach of the undefeated Miami Hurricanes, Coach Mario Cristobal. Coach, first thought, I got to ask you about this. I see McAfee jump off the high dive, and right away I'm like, I wonder if Coach Cristobal ever did something like that in his time at the U. Is that something you're familiar with? Have you done something like that before? Like, walk me through, because that's high up there, it looks like.
Yeah, the 10-meter board, absolutely. That was actually freshman initiation back in the day. We can't do that nowadays. I understand that. But, yeah, that was certainly part of it, and looking forward to you guys giving that a shot when you guys visit.
Yeah, that's up there. I mean, I got to imagine hitting the water is probably not the most comfortable thing to do at a height like that. But Coach, I mean, undefeated. I mentioned at the top of this thing, with where this team is now and the different turnarounds you've had at your other stops, whether it be Oregon or FIU, how does this place where you are right now in year 4 for Miami compare to those turnarounds?
You know, I think they're all similar in terms of progress. We're only 4 games in, so we've seen a ton of it, especially as it relates to the line of scrimmage and physicality and just the execution of our systems. But what also we see a bunch of areas where we need a ton of improvement at to get to where we want to be, right? To continue to accelerate, our path to what we want to accomplish. So, it's hard to tell. But we do love the fact that we're surrounded by legitimate dudes that love to work.
And you seem like you just love this. Like you being at your alma mater, a place where you grew up. Are you able at all during the bye week to take like 5 minutes and be like, this is really cool. We got Miami where we want them to be right now in the month of September. Like I'm enjoying that. Are you able to just like take a second at all, or is it just full speed ahead all the time?
We really haven't had much time since we arrived. We upon arrival a few years back, it just the enormity of the task at hand just put us in full throttle mode. But no, the bye week is filled with opportunities, man, from the academic side, community service side, but certainly the health side, the improvement side, find more guys that can play. Self-scout wise, we have to continue to evolve, man. People have 4 games on us. We got to continue to evolve from systematically and technique and fundamentally. We got tons of areas that we need to improve upon. So we are full throttle this week.
And I know since you've been there, you've mentioned it multiple times on the show, like it's been a build. And now in year 4, would you say it's a team that reflects like your brand of ball? I know people saw you on the sideline and the way that you're just like going after these guys when it comes to the line of scrimmage and the physicality and all that. Does it feel like it's your football team at this point in time in year 4?
I like to think of it as our football team. I'm a member of this organization. We spent a lot of time working to get the staff right, getting the right people in here that share the same philosophies, that believe in a vision and are used to doing things a certain way, and that are completely just invested in the people and the program. So I like to think of it as our. I hate using my or I as it relates to anything. And we just, we feel momentum, we feel intention, we feel purpose, we feel very connected to our team, to every member of the organization, and we just want to get better. We just want to keep improving.
You mentioned that connection, Coach. Carson Beck has been pretty vocal about rediscovering, his love for football or making football fun again for him coming to Miami. Was that something that you were aware of when you got him on campus in Coral Gables? Was, hey, this is a guy that we're going to have to help him on the, emotional side, coming off the injury and everything he's been through, as well as the physical side, getting back healthy?
I think the best thing that we could have even thought about doing for him is the plan we carried out, which is we want to be a truth teller for him. We wanted to go right at it directly and making sure that, to get to where he wants to get to, it's completely tied into what we want at that position for our program. And that thing is completely intertwined. So he recognized that. And we thought his ability was off the charts. We thought that, systematically there was a clash there. And that happens, man. That happens everywhere to anyone. So it's not a dig or a comment on any other system. We felt that we had the guys up front that could protect them at a certain level. And we felt that we were acquiring the skill positions that could let them go to work and do some things. And we've had, some pretty good success so far, and kind of the same thing there. He knows, this is the best part about the guy. He just wants to win, and he doesn't really concern himself with all the other stuff, the shenanigans, the noise, personal, accolades, all that stuff. The guy's all about team, and we coach him hard, and that's what he wants. And he, so far, we're improving.
And it seems like the guys love him. Like on the sideline, he's doing handshakes with the players. I mean, the guys rally around him. Is that something that was immediate from the jump? Like, hey, this guy is one of us, and this is his team?
I thought what he did was one of the more difficult things to do. He was able to relate and connect while not being able to practice. And that is really, really hard as a quarterback, because you're really not you're not able to prove it on the field. Your teammates aren't allowed or aren't able to see you do what you do and what you can bring to the table. But yet, his knowledge, his intensity, his approach to the game, his approach to his daily just film watching habits, regimen, training, all that stuff was was awesome. So they all felt like this guy, with all his experience and the tape that we've watched him, slinging around and run the ball. This guy's got something to him. So naturally, it just kind of happened.
One of those guys that's popped right away, too, that he's throwing the football to, true freshman, Malachi Toney. He's been awesome so far. But I want to ask about the nickname because I have Googled, I have asked people close to Miami. Like I am trying to understand where the nickname Baby Jesus comes from. Do you have a backstory there or any inkling of a backstory as to how you landed a nickname like that?
I don't. I mean, football down here in South Florida is everything. I mean, I was just outside of practice to see one of our former players when I was at FIU by the name of T.Y. Hilton, and we were just talking about this. The just how incredibly talented the area is usually stacked with unbelievable players. But I first learned the name when my son, who's in high school now, asked me if he could not go to school, and I'm like, this is our first day of practice. I'm like, what's your deal? He's like, I want to go see Baby Jesus. And I said, who are you talking about, man? And he says, Malachi Toney. I said, oh my Lord, I gotta look into this more. So, the best part about that guy, he's super humble. I mean, again, just watch the way he blocks. Forget about the catches. Forget about all. Watch the way he just throws it up in there and just gives it up for his teammates. Watch him celebrate when one of his teammates breaks free for a big time play, whether it be a run or pass, whatever. He's a really impressive and incredible young man.
Saying I want to go see Baby Jesus, you're like, you want to go to church? I mean, it's not Sunday. I don't think it's not Christmas right now. We're about to start spring practice, fall camp. But you mentioned the way he blocks. How infectious is that? Because from my point of view, if your receiver that's a freshman is blocking like that, that has to set a bar for the rest of your football team, or maybe something that your football team has set the bar for a freshman to go block like that.
No doubt. That is super contagious. I mean, to me, that unselfish play, physicality, violence, all those things are contagious. And, he embodies, some of all of that in the way he plays the game. I mean, he plays the game like a defensive player almost, very aggressive, attacks the ball, attacks his block. So, and he's another guy that, I mean, you can coach him hard, you can push him, and all he wants is more. He just wants to know how he can get better and then actually go do it.
And it's unique to see someone like him, like Carson Beck, like the portal pieces on defense. There seems to be a very clear standard in place within your football program, but also a lot of new pieces that have got on the same page pretty quickly. How do you go about getting those new pieces to gel and get up to your standards so early on in their time in Coral Gables?
Yeah, we spend an extraordinary amount of time together, especially when they first arrive. And we have very, very clear standards, and it starts with the work. And the truth of the matter is, to truly respect someone, you really got to get to know them. And to get to know them, you better invest time, like invest real deal time, and then go through some grueling, challenging training sessions that bring out the best or the worst in somebody. And that from there, it just typically takes care of itself. Like our guys right now, they love working, and they truly engage, and they look forward to competition, which is something we've been striving for since the day we arrived here. And we keep throwing it at them like we're in the bye week and we're competing today. There's still some guys that are pushing for roster spots or to be a starter or to be a real deal contributor. So I think the simplicity of that, we have a lot of things to do here, so we can get on the boat, we could go to the beach, we could do a obstacle day out there. I mean, you know how it is. It's unbelievable down here. But the main part, the simplicity of just hanging together.
And you mentioned those grueling training sessions and the camaraderie and just the culture in general. Feels like America got to see that tangibly this past weekend against Florida. It's 13-7, third quarter. Like, what's the conversation on the sideline? Maybe it's you and your staff. Maybe it's the team in general. What's the overall buzz when it's that score in the third quarter against that team?
No doubt. Cut it loose, man. There's nothing that gets in the way of us doing our job because we play together. It's that simple, man. Cut it loose, and we're doing our job, and we do it for each other.
Michael Irvin's on the sideline too, and he, for me personally, watching the game at home, like he's must-see TV. Does he talk to you ever on the side? I always see him talking to players when they come off the field. Is he talking to you ever, or are you just like dialed in on the headset?
During the game? No, not during the game. We go back a long way, man. He was one of the many hosts I had on my official visit when I was a player here at Miami, and it was frightening. Those guys were really good players and high level just dudes, and they had a great edge to them. And man, I wanted to be a Hurricane so bad. so badly. I didn't think I was good enough. But I just wanted in. I didn't care about the facility. I didn't care about the uniform color. I just wanted, and I want to be one of those dogs. And come here to Miami, guys like that, they, after they bounce you around, man, and kick your butt in practice, they put their arm around you. They make you one of their brothers. And so him and so many other guys that come in on a weekly basis, it's just a whole different level of brotherhood. And they're doing a great job mentoring our young guys. They're helping our guys move forward. Making Miami move forward and just do things that allow us to be compete for championships.
And one of the things that feels like it's made Miami special is the competition in the state. When you got Florida rolling, when you got Florida State rolling, looks like that Miami-Florida State game is going to be pretty high stakes, going to be center stage nationally. How good is it for college football, in your opinion, for that rivalry to have the juice that it looks like it's going to have here when y'all get after it here in a couple weeks?
Well, that's what we knew as college football back in the day. It felt like the title went through one of those couple of cities, right? Almost every single year. So there's such great football here in the state of Florida, and you also have national brands that attract players from all over the place. So that's what I always knew as the greatest rivalry. And then I got the opportunity to coach, so I got to be part of the Alabama program. I got a chance to be part of the Oregon program. You learn all these, you learn about the Civil War, you learn about the Iron Bowl, but for me, it was always Miami, Florida State, Miami, Florida, Miami, Notre Dame. And so it's awesome knowing that we were blessed with the opportunity to be able to go and compete in these matchups.
You mentioned being on the Alabama staff. Nick Saban was in town with game day this past weekend. Is there any communication y'all have while he's in town, or maybe when he leaves? Is there a line that y'all have somewhat throughout the season?
Oh yeah, we talk. We talk on occasion. I always promise to keep the Dolphin fans from annihilating him when he comes into town, because he doesn't speak any Spanish. But you can imagine all those years together, working together. South Florida was my area, so I'd always bring him into town and drive him bananas. Having our patrol people take us to about 14 schools a day and just get him introduced to all the people down here. He was awesome. He was a great mentor. We talk about it all the time. We talked a lot about the rat poison stuff this past week. But he's always incredible opportunity granted myself and my family. I'm forever grateful to him, and but I do mess with him pretty hard.
What you say you mess with him a little bit? What does that entail? Are you chirping him about the Miami job? You're chirping about how he runs his football team relative to yours? What goes into the messing with A1 Nick Saban?
Probably didn't pay me enough for getting him all those players. That's one. That his tagline was always, they don't make him like they used to, and now I'm trying to get a hold of him early, but he's too busy doing TV, so he takes a little extra time to himself. No, the guy's a grinder, man. That guy's I call him he's an eternal competitor. He doesn't stop, but a super valuable resource. I'm sure like anybody that coached for him, reaches out to him, and he's always available. Him and Miss Terry, they were awesome. They were awesome to myself, to my wife, and my family. So very, very grateful for him.
Well, Coach, we appreciate all your time. I want to finish with this last question, two-parter. You got Francis Mauigoa, who looks like he could be competing for the Outland Trophy. You got Ruben Bain, who's getting Heisman buzz in addition to the Nagurski Trophy. One, what's it like having those two guys from your first true recruiting class now being year 3 guys, and I'm imagining the battles in practice being just electrifying. Second part of that question, alluded a little bit maybe, if the Heisman buzz continues with Ruben Bain, we get him in the offensive scheme a little bit. Have we workshopped that package?
Well, I think the first part, Francis, we call him CC, him and Ruben Bain. It's like Jurassic Park out there every day. Those just complete creatures going at it, and a little bit it's like deja vu when we were out west, where it was Penn and Kayvon Thibodeau every day in practice. It's interesting how line of scrimmage pieces can really change things, right? And that's like you mentioned, it's our first class, which really puts it in perspective. Those guys in a few years back, they're redshirt sophomores somewhere, right? These guys are true juniors in their third year, and they're excelling and they're moving our program forward. And if you had them both here right now, the only thing they would tell you is they'd say, we have to get a heck of a lot better. We got to improve. We got to work harder. But they find each other every single day in practice to go against each other. They do not shy away from it, not one single rep. They get after it, And guys like that, in terms of those campaigns, yes, those things are to kick in full throttle, while alleviating them of having to deal with all the, the things that come with media and the noise and everything else, but at the same time, doing right by our players and making sure we do everything we can to increase their value and their exposure as they go throughout the season.
Phenomenal. Well, Coach, we appreciate your time. I know you got a lot going with the bye week, but we're excited to watch y'all after this bye week, get after with Florida State and the rest of the season. Thanks for your time.
Man, I appreciate you having me. Thank you. Go Canes.